Welcome to Sparking Success with Aaron Opalewski. Aaron brings you conversations that spark innovation, cultivate leadership skills, and pave the way for your business success. In each episode, we delve into the dynamic world of business and leadership, exploring strategies, insights, and success stories that fuel your professional journey. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to Sparking Success. My name's EJ, and I'm joined with Aaron Opalewski. Aaron, man, it's been a week, but a great one.
Yeah, absolutely.
How you doing?
Great, man. I'm energized. I'm ready to go. I have not slept enough, but I'm riding off the high and the momentum we got right now, I think. So
yeah, well, today we're going to talk about two of those major momentum or high, just accomplishments, great things. And, you know, consistently on Sparking Success, Aaron, I know I talk about the aspect that we aren't just putting these theory things out there. These are things we've experienced, we've went through, that we've overcome, challenges we've had wins on. And today we're going to talk about the recent transition that you've had as CEO to Spark Companies, as well as a just amazing event that we got to participate in yesterday.
Yeah.
And last week we dropped an episode with Fletcher, who is now the new acting president of Spark Talent, which I know for you was both an emotional transition, but also a great one. And I would love to hear a little bit about 1 weekend as the CEO. And I should, everybody who's listening, I should give them a little bit of a kind of a purview there. You were always acting as the CEO of Spark Companies, but you were also the president of Spark Talent.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, I think we just called it. I mean, the titles are not that big of a deal, but I was running the day-to-day of talent, and really we were already doing this, but I was doing it in a way that, like, what we've done now is we've really solidified what we were beta testing for all of 2024.
Right.
And this is not an extreme move for us because of that beta test, and it's been working, and we're continuing to build momentum, and the companies are growing. And that was the big thing. We didn't want to do that early. And, talent's still by far the biggest entity. And, we're working on growing all of them, but just based on time, team size, customer base, service lines, it's just quite a bit more expanded than the other organizations, as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
I think it sets the benchmark for where we're taking the other organizations, and it's talent's job to keep staying ahead, right? Because I think there's a healthy chase to that, right? And we talk about it all the time, like on an individual basis, like just because you're a big fish in a small pond, like you got to keep improving and get better every day. So I love the healthy competition that goes on within that. And I think that's just another unique thing that we have going on, is there's this like internal push that's collaborative but competitive.
Yeah.
Within the portfolio.
Yeah,
companies.
I love that.
And it's really important that you get around people that help shape what's possible. And so I think for the other entities, talent's really good for that. And then talent gets fresh ideas, outlooks, connections, with other clients, resources for projects. So there's a lot of benefits. It's a good thing that we got going on.
Yeah.
But we could have made that change at the beginning of last year, but we hadn't. I've learned that sometimes you can have a good idea, but try not to do extreme changes. How do you test things out, or then nudge things? The more you can make subtle moves that have big impacts, compared to like, oh, I got to make this big splash, and then it's going to make this big impact. Well, that can also be a big flop. And sometimes that's happened to us, on some of the things that we've wanted to do, or we wanted to do, and we just did them early. So we beta test this for 24. It was working. And we really just nudged it along and made it official externally. And yeah, now my day is just structured a little bit differently to like, where's it going to be most effective within the portfolio?
Yeah.
Since talent's 70+% of the gross profit within the portfolio, it gets about 70% or sometimes maybe even more to the allocation. But as you know, a lot of the stuff we're working on is really to contribute to the whole portfolio.
Right.
And so I'm really starting to get into more like that's the transition now is yes, I will help an individual company day to day, but it's really more about doing stuff that goes towards like the projects that we have going on for the whole portfolio.
Yeah. And I know that obviously, as you've shared with people, that you beta tested that a lot for 24.
The whole year.
Yeah.
And the measurement was, did we grow EBITDA? Did we grow the business? Did we promote people? Did people make more money? Are we helping people grow? Are we on mission, on purpose? Do we reach every igniter that we set down for the year? No, because those are our Super Bowls.
Mm-hmm.
We've done it 3 times out of this is our 11th year. So we're going after it again this year. We are going to get there. But, the way we set those, we have generally doubled them up.
Right.
And to double up every year is a tall task. So, got 3 of those Super Bowls, in our trophy case, and we're going after number 4. We're going to get it. The timing component to that, I don't completely control. We're going to build the team that does it.
Yeah. So, a week in, obviously, as you guys have been beta testing that for 24.
Yeah.
When the official switch happened to the entirety of the team, anything happen inside of you?
I thought I was gonna bawl like a baby because even as I was like preparing, the couple days before, I was emotional. I'm like, oh man,
this is gonna be wild.
But I think I had done that enough where I like really tried to hold it together, and I think I had to pause, a couple times when we made the announcement. But I did hold it together. Yeah. But I had a couple cries on it too, like when we talked about that in the offsites with all the operators and business unit leaders. I cried like a baby.
Yeah.
And so I think
you said that. I didn't want to say that publicly, but
but that's what happened, and it's because I don't recall exactly what I said, but you got all the emotions of I believe that's the right thing to do for the mission that we're on, to create 100,000 opportunities a year, to have a portfolio of 13 companies, and to have people operating, each one of those individual entities, and owning their niche or sector. And this is part of that transition.
Mm-hmm.
Growth is uncomfortable. There's what's uncomfortable about it. Well, it's a change. No matter how much we say it was beta tested, it's still a change.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some additional things that even in my conversations this week with Fletcher, it's been this way, right? It's like I want his opinion. A lot of times I'll go with his opinion on anything he's owning. I'm going to lean, his way, first before we'll go with my idea. And we've talked about that some of my podcasts. But a lot of times it was my job to just make a call at the end of the day, listen to opinions, make a call.
Mm-hmm.
We really start to transition now to with talent. It's more his call.
Yeah.
And so I won't share specifically what we talked about last night. I talked about 40 things. You were on probably 3 or 4 of the emails. Fletcher got about 40 different points of contact last night. But one of the things was, hey, which direction do you want to take this? And there's 2 options out there. And we're going to solidify that later today. But we're going to go with his call.
Right.
Last year, I would have made that call.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not going to, I don't think either option is outside of us. Like, could we cause a dent, one way or the other in the car? Maybe. I don't think we will. I think he's going to choose right. But it's more his decision this time. I'm going to provide my guidance, but my guidance is really like, here's our 2 options. Which one do you believe?
Mm-hmm.
They're both good. Like, I would just want to execute it.
Yeah.
And I want to get behind what you want to do. Which one do you want to do? We got to go.
Do you, we've talked about this on other episodes, you just making the reference of like, yeah, there's a dent, but that didn't total the car, or hey, there has been moments of totaled cars and I've had to reel it back in.
Yeah.
As people are listening or watching today, Were there any indicators for you, not necessarily working with Fletcher, right? But for you moving from the president role of Spark Talent into the CEO role, exclusively, that you needed to see in yourself for your comfort? You're like, yep, I'm ready to do this.
Well, I think part of it was having some of the other portfolio companies profitable.
Okay.
Because again, we didn't, in some other businesses, I've acquired businesses that are profitable. And I would like to do that within our portfolio next, because I don't want to say it's easier. You're just not going to hear me use that word, because it's a false reality in business. Nothing that's worthwhile is easy. And if it comes easy, it goes away easy too. I truly believe that. And I've seen, that at times you want to build something to last, there's going to be hard, challenging parts of it. That's part of what tests you and builds you in a way where you can be foundationally strong in there. Right. So, we start a lot of them organically. So when you start something organically and you're saying, let's go invest and build this team and put the capital behind it to do it right, that sounds nice, right? You know what that means on the back end? It's probably not profitable right out of the gate. So in a couple of those instances, that was the case. So the fact that we have been able to get multiple of the portfolio companies profitable, and some of them now for multi-years, that was one checkpoint. It's like, well, before, we do this, that needs to happen. The other checkpoint was, hey, let's beta test this, and talent has to continue to grow. Because I say some things are changing and that's not going to dent the car, but you got to understand, when talent is 70% of the engine right now, what is a dent like that? Like that dent could be more, like we got to really watch that. And so we really call it like a live role play. It was real life. It wasn't a role play, but that's why we did that for that period of time. Because in the past, I might have jumped into that when I strategically thought it was the right move. And there's just things where we did that, like our first year where we grew 800%. And then Fletcher and I both the next year jumped out of sales. Real smart after a year. We've talked about it before.
Yeah.
And we still grew 100% the next year. But the year after that, but you could see that the momentum had shifted, and that, our problems were compounding, because that's going to happen as you grow. You're already going to complexify things. You're going to have more problems because you have more things going on, whether you want to call them transactions, conversations, interactions, experiences. Like there's just more going on. So it gets more complex and there's going to be more issues. Well, so you got that going on. And then we had, made those choices really early in the stage of things. No one was really developed within the team. We hired everyone organically other than the initial 5. And no one in the initial 5 had more than 3 years of experience. And that was Fletcher. Everyone outside of that had 2 years or less of experience. So no one had really any experience. So, you look at the scenario and it's like, well, you really got to understand that if you do dent this thing at all, it could really, like, it's not just like, oh yeah, that was a mistake. Like if it derails something at talent, well, that's gonna slow the progress. So that's why we're like, hey, we're not just going to do this in 24, even though we could strategically start to see, hey, we have a couple, like we already kind of had the profitability thing check mark on a couple of our entities that have now been around, for a couple of years. Like we had that check mark.
Right.
But we needed to test the other part of that, which is like, man, because if we slow down the biggest part of the engine right now, it's just going to slow down us in general. And we didn't want that. That would have made it a mistake.
Yeah.
So we feel good about it. Now, I say that, I'm not uncomfortable saying that, but I got to make something clear. Like this is a daily thing. Like momentum shifts.
Yeah.
You have to go out and earn it every day. The rent's due every day on it. And so I love the direction we're heading. But we have much to improve on. But we have maintained that momentum and are continuing to have it climb. And we're seeing it with, like a couple of weeks ago, we had a record week within the portfolio. There's some records going on for the month. Like that's the kind of stuff we need. Like there should be, like that's the like expect that, because that's the point we're supposed to be growing. So that should be the norm.
Yeah.
Will we maybe hit a loop at some point? Yes, but we should not hit a loop right now. We're investing in the infrastructure. You know that because you make some of those investments. We have all of the companies set up to strategically own their areas. Like we should go.
Yeah.
Like we are going. I'm going out to a dinner tonight for one of those infrastructure roles that is a key potential ad for us that we can go and serve this customer base. Like we should be going like that right now.
Yeah.
Then you factor in business climate, technology, all this other stuff. Like it's time to go.
Yeah. In past episodes, we did a specific episode about anchors.
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw a little curveball just because a little fun, because then we're going to talk about a fun event we got to a part of. Man. Is the anchor for making the transition right now, or is the anchor in a year?
Dude,
and if there is an anchor, do you want to share what it is?
Oh man,
and you're so humble, so I know you wouldn't.
So this is funny. So real life. This morning, I was actually thinking about that. So it's getting a little itch.
Yeah. Because this is here. I'll pause.
I have an answer. The answer is I thought about that, and what am I going to celebrate? The transition? Screw that. You need to celebrate the result. So let's go get the result, and then we'll go.
Yeah.
So now, I'm a avid watch collector at this point.
Yep.
And I haven't bought a vehicle in 2 years. But there's some things that we want to do. So maybe I'll do, so it's hard for me as someone that really I'm not a car guy.
Mm-hmm.
I like to have, nice vehicles, but I'm not a car guy. Like someone, the worst thing is when someone what's the horsepower in your Ferrari? I'm like,
yeah.
And I actually forgot now because I had it memorized when I finally took it to a car show.
You can tell people when they ask.
When people I'm like, I have no clue. I totally I think disappoint some of we're in Detroit. So people are like, man,
they want to know torque and horsepower.
I just think it looks cool.
Yeah.
And I have to go again. I had it memorized this summer. I forgot now. Sorry to my father-in-law if he watches this, but I had it memorized at that show.
Yep.
But so I'm thinking about that, and I don't know. My thought on that was if I do anything with that, we have some things that we're working on, and some I want to see. Even though we have a lot of people that are earning more income than ever, and we had a lot of success with that. We're really on a how do I say this? We're on a great run.
Yeah.
On that for the last 3-4 years.
Yep.
On people making, more money within the role, and raising kind of the some of the records within that, but also just kind of I don't know if baselines, but some of our more roles in their first or second year, because there's a building process here. It's not a get rich quick thing. You have to compound your efforts.
Yep.
And I heard this recently, 6 years. I think I might have said this on one of these ones, but someone who I respect that sold their staffing business, they said this. So his name's Tom Gimbel. I actually don't know him very well. I heard him speak once, but I follow him online. I respect him. And I could tell him and I have completely different viewpoints on some stuff, but I still respect him.
Sure.
That's important. You don't have to agree with someone on everything to have a lot of respect for him. But what he said was something along the lines of, in our business, and I think just in business in general, probably, but 6 years is the commitment that you have to make, because things happen. It's not like you just work for 6 years, but you work at it for 6 years. And in our business, what happens is you're building rapport with customers internally with your team. And as programs or projects come through that are bigger, either through your network or just through the company, and you're looking around who's going to be capable of leading this program, who's the subject matter expert. And it's that got dropped to that person.
Yeah.
And we are not going to talk specific programs, but Jamie, is a good example of this, who got promoted this year to our senior director.
Mm-hmm.
He's been with us longer than that period of time.
Right.
And we've had some big programs come through, and he's leading, one of our biggest, business units out of Spark Talent. And some of those programs that come through, it's not like you give a program to anyone and it just takes off. And so we're looking around who's going to be the best to service this customer, this client, this area. And like it's him.
Yeah.
And that wasn't something like, that's not so much a product of like, oh, when Jamie started working here like 8-9 years ago, like he couldn't have just dropped that to him.
Mm-hmm.
He's had to be built. He's had to build himself. He's had to assemble that. But that compound effect of working at getting better every day, every month, every year, it's stacking. And so when that opportunity came, he was ready. And from the outside, it may look like that's luck, but I don't believe in luck. It's that he has built himself up in a way to where he was ready for that program when it came.
Yeah.
A couple of those programs. So, I thought Tom just said that well.
Yeah.
I just got off on a tangent.
That's okay. I think I'll re-encapsulate it because this is what I heard you say. Obviously I've thought about that anchor and those type of things. My anchor right now is, I transitioned.
I want to get here. Let me be blunt on this.
Yeah.
Well, one, I don't think like if you have a vehicle where people can do what there's a vision inside of that where they could do any of the things that you're going to do too. I don't think you have to feel bad about having some kind of material win if that's what you want to do, or take your family on an experience or something like that. If that's your thing, but you better have that vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
You better know what people want to do. You better help push them and show them how what they want to do fits inside what you're doing. And know that you care about it and you're relentless in making that happen as long as they put in the effort.
Right.
And that's the caveat. So it's not a hand me out, because no, they put in the effort, they apply themselves, they make themselves the obvious choice to ascend to, wherever they want to ascend to, or whatever the options are within the vehicle of the organization, and game on.
Mm-hmm.
But so we got some stuff right now within some of this transition. And I would like to see us execute on pushing some of those things through where people could see some raises.
Yeah.
And then once that's done, you might see me get a little more open to that.
Yeah.
But my quick answer on this morning was not specifically an anchor. The anchor will be, because just doing a promotion or making a move, it means nothing.
Right.
Nothing. And that's the frame of mind you got to say. Because if you think you accomplished something with it, you're probably setting yourself up for failure.
Yes.
So when we produce the result from it, then I will do something for sure.
I love that.
So it's funny because I literally thought about that this morning, and I had checked myself on it. I'm like, for what? Because you changed a title, and it's more than that, right? We just talked about it, so we don't need to go through it again.
Yeah.
But the results are what matter.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the results are what produce the service to the customers, the opportunities for the team, push us towards the mission.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to celebrate transition on paper.
Right.
I will get behind when we achieve something on it. But then there's the other reality to this too. Like, we're on a pretty good tear. Do you know how behind I feel on where we should be and where we are?
I do. I mean, I can sense it.
We're capable. I think I said this in a meeting. We're capable right now of being double where we're at.
Right.
And it's on me that we're not.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't drive me crazy every day. It drives me every day. But there's part of me that gets pissed about that every day. And so for reasons like that, it's like, no, you know what I'll do instead? What can I do to vertically integrate something?
Yeah.
Or make sure that we do, that if it's been earned, or we'd be able to do both those things, by the way. But there's a timing component to some of that too, I think.
Yeah. But
it's just like, man, I want to acknowledge everyone's progress and that we're making progress, and that's important. And I love recognizing people for doing new things. But I also every day feel like we're behind where we should be.
Right.
And maybe I'll always feel like that. Maybe that's not healthy. I think it's been healthy overall for me, because I figured out how to not be miserable with that. But there's a part of me that just like, man, we're capable of more right now.
Yeah.
So.
I think it's I love that answer. I'll be very transparent that is the Aaron like that we see every week here at Spark Companies. And even your answer of that, I'm, fighting back a little bit of, the watery eyes, that type of thing, because we know that you want that. And I think in this transition, you've shown that very well. So neither of us get emotional because both of us will. Yesterday, this is a hard pivot, everybody who's listening and watching. It's a hard pivot. You may want to pause and then rewatch this next one. But yesterday, we just had an epic day.
Yeah, it was fun.
And I think it was epic for a number of reasons. There was a lot of different components to it. It was a building event because it was relationship building with you and a business partner of yours and some other ventures that you have. Yeah. Like you were able to support him and some of his vision.
Yeah.
You were able to support one of our other entities, part of the portfolio, something that's near and dear to his heart because of his kids' involvement in a school. I'm starting to release some of it. And you were able to, from my perspective, alongside of Dom Crossan, input into especially 3 young ladies, if not further, and I believe much further, a sweet event that we got to participate in. Yeah. So there's a local Catholic school here in Metro Detroit called Notre Dame Prep in Marist Academy. And they do an event every year called Amazing Shake. It sounds like the last 5 years. Is that right?
I don't know. 4 or 5 years? I've been involved in some capacity for the last 3.
Okay.
And I don't know how long they've been involved, but it's a national program. Yeah. And they've been involved for multiple years.
Okay, walk everybody through the pinnacle, what happened, and how you've been involved, because this is awesome, you guys.
So my partner John he asked me to be involved 3 years ago. And his son was going through, and his son actually made it, into all these final stages. Went to nationals and placed I don't want to get this wrong, 5th, 6th, 7th.
Okay,
maybe 8th, but somewhere in that, he placed high nationally.
Yeah.
So that's the whole, country. And him and a couple other, people that went, they all placed well, and they were it blew me away. But the event, it's really focused on communication.
Yeah.
And it's teaching kids about communication with adults. So they focus on firm handshake, eye contact, how you hold a conversation. Can you think, on your feet? And man, they put these kids through this gauntlet, in the initial round where they're doing 30 stations.
Right.
I think 90 seconds or 2 minutes apart, and they're going, and they don't know what's coming at them until they're at the next gauntlet. So it's impressive.
Yeah.
And I think, with everything going on, with the world, as it is, and it's hey, you're going to have to embrace technology in that, but there is something special about working with kids on communicating with people.
Right.
And then people that are older than them, adults. And I know how powerful that can be. As I don't know if I said this, I might have said this to them in the room. Maybe I said it out when we were talking. But when I was, first getting into recruiting and then on, out in the business world on my own, a lot of times you're the youngest person in the room. And specifically when you own the business too, there's this could be another conversation about what you make your title early on. Not that you want to lie, but my first business cards didn't say president or CEO or anything like that. It's the director of business development, because I wasn't going to lie about that, but I didn't want to, sometimes your title can work against you, or you can be put in a situation where it's I'm talking to the final decision maker. So, but as a young kid, I think you run the risk of someone not wanting to trust you with a situation that could impact their livelihood, their family, their career. their bonus, to get a little more granular with it, their team.
Yeah.
In our instance. So, how do you overcome that? Well, as a young adult or young professional, you need to be able to interact and go into those situations and hold your own. And I know from experience that when you can do that, and then you show a tenacity and work ethic and willingness to do whatever it takes to come through for the customer, when you do that, then you set yourself apart.
Mm-hmm.
So you might come into a situation, the first impression may be that, but you know how quick you can flip it when you're sharp on these things?
Yeah.
So teaching these kids these skills is so valuable to me. How valuable? I don't know. For me, I think it's hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe billions of dollars. And I think it gets more and more rare the way the world changes. Like, these are the skills that you have to be really good at.
Yeah.
So I love the program for that reason. Then you get into, these kids are in 6th, 8th grade.
Right.
And I think I posted this yesterday. It's true. Like, I'm not going to, like, there are some people, thankfully, that maybe interview just as good or maybe a little bit more polished. But do you understand? I've interviewed tens of thousands of people. More than half, these kids are better than.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But it's because they put in the reps. They've been working on this. And that's why I'm so supportive of the program. Because these are tools that changed my life. It's like, man, like, look at these kids doing this in 6th, 7th, 8th grade. Like, this is insane. Like, this is so valuable to their future.
Yeah.
And I love it for the kids that, we got to recognize the 3 finalists and Pranya, who won. We had Pranya, Natalie, and Brielle, and they're all amazing. But man, the kids that just try, in an intense situation, and they get out there and they try their best. There's something to that too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it was really neat because, Bolt got to be a part of that yesterday. We filmed the school finals, or live streamed the school finals in the studio right here. A little bit different setup. Dominic and Aaron were over here. The student, that was being interviewed for a role that Spark, Talent had created for them. They sat down. They didn't have pre-prepared questions. All we really did was give them the job title. We sent them videos from our internal training on our core values, so they knew some about Spark.
Yeah.
And which they didn't even have like a month to prepare, or they hadn't been doing this recruiting manager job for all of their life. And now they're transitioning, like, oh my word. And they sat down, and each of them, certainly, like any interviews that any of us do, brought something unique to the table. We heard about past accomplishments and experience. We heard about a mindset and the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. From one young lady, we heard about a reliance on faith from one, young lady, and her moral compass and doing the right thing. One young lady, the last contestant that interviewed, came in. I mean, I was wowed. Tell everybody how she just, like, right off the bat presented herself. She comes in, she shakes hand, and what does she hand you?
So she had like a full bio, like not a proposal, but like a full bio of herself with references specifically made out to us.
Yeah.
And it was like 4 or 5 of them from different companies. And it was really cool. So it was, on her highlight sheet, had a picture of her. She had it like laminated in a nice folder.
Yep.
And then it was all like Spark branded colors.
Yeah, she was on brand.
And like, again, that must have been done in between Tuesday afternoon and when they were in here yesterday on Thursday morning.
Yep.
I mean, it was cool. She did a great job. She ended up coming in second.
Yeah.
And it was so close between Natalie and Pranya, who ended up winning. And that was one of, like, she was, she edged out everyone a little bit in the preparation side, which is a huge part of business sales, like a separator, stuff like that. She knocked that out of the park. And then she was great, all the way around. Pranya, who won, we decided that we were going to go with her because of just the overall flow and the energy, charisma, and just like the flow of the interview and really the conversation. And when we looked at what the contest embodied, we literally went down to like tenths of a point.
Yeah.
And I won't get into the exacts, but like it was within a tenth of a point. Like we had to do it that way because it's like, man, if we go like by a full number, like we're going to be here all day. So,
and I'll just highlight a couple of things.
That was the hardest part of the day.
I believe it. I remember, so obviously this was a live stream, guys. And, the parents of students, I'm sure their aunts, uncles, grandmas, grandpas, and then all the other students of, their classmates back at the school were watching this live.
Yeah.
And we had transitioned from, I'll use the term, one segment, and Aaron and Dom were in the other conference room, like deliberating and, going over final scores, making their choice. And I remember walking in as I'm producing this event and walking in and going to Aaron and Dom, hey, we have 4.5 minutes until like they're going to be back in. The countdown timer is going to be on, and it goes. And I don't know that I'll ever forget it, but I certainly won't quickly forget it. Both of your faces, you and Dominic, were so contemplative. And it was like, well, we know where we're going, but we want to make sure this. Aaron, you guys know, is a numbers guy. I see Aaron double checking his math. I see him, looking at stuff. Dom is, looking over the questionnaire. And the thing I loved about that, Aaron, was you guys recognized the hard work that these young people put in.
Oh, yeah.
And you were like, you guys embodied that as if it was like a position that you guys were going to hire. And then I'll double down on this because we brought the young ladies back in. It's the middle school principal, the 3 ladies, they were right over where like this area right here. And Dominic and Aaron encouraged each of them, told them some of the great things they did. And then at the end of it, they announced the winner. Middle school principal went and, had a little mini interview. And by the time I hit end on the live stream, got out of the studio, which was packed at that point still.
It feels empty.
It does. And a whole lot cooler. Aaron and Dominic are already coaching those other 2 young ladies, telling them what a wonderful job they did, how they could, potentially prove, because they were going to a regional.
They're there right now.
Yeah, actually, when I was driving in this morning, I saw the NDP bus south on 75. I'm like, I know where that bus is going right now. And I probably looked like the crazy guy because I'm honking my horn and fist pumping out the window. Hopefully it was them, and they're like, oh, that's the studio guy. And then it went in my head. I'm like, oh, well, there was only 3 of them. The other 60 students that were going to regional, they had no idea who I was. But it was just a great end cap to a really cool momentum building. And I know that long-term investment is going to be there. And that's the cool stuff that we get to do here at Spark. And
that was, one, you guys knocked it out of the park.
We're very blessed.
You and Chris, and they worked really hard to pull this off. I think we've known for a couple weeks, but a couple conversations in the last 10 days or so that really kind of ramped this up.
Yep.
And you guys just really put in a ton of legwork to pull this off. And it's something that we just wanted to do for the school. So there wasn't necessarily a monetary reward to it either. But I mean,
find a way to deliver value.
On delivering value and helping out a cause that we believed in. And it's cool to see some of those texts last night that Brandon sent out and everyone was sharing, and then a couple of the calls that I got both yesterday and then this morning, and everyone was just talking about you guys and how impressed they were. specifically the people that were here and could see kind of some of what was going on. And then I had the opportunity to brag on you guys too, and I'll do it again now. So, we couldn't have done that, in that way without us creating Bold and what we're doing. So, how cool that we're in a position where we're able to do that, and grateful to you guys. Want to acknowledge you, and you always, there's so much work that goes into this. It's nice to hear that, like, man, we pulled that off.
By all means.
And I think we did more than pull it off. Like, we went above and beyond.
Yeah.
So it's what we want to do always. We embodied it there. So pretty cool.
Yeah. I'll wrap things up today by saying this. One, there's a ton of momentum right now. A ton of momentum on the podcast even. I'll put the shameless plug in. If you haven't had the opportunity to share one of our episodes with someone, please do. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as you do as well. And then I'll encapsulate everything today by saying this as the host. There is a wonderful opportunity when you do the right thing, when you find a way to deliver value, when you have the right mindset. And we have seen the success of that here at Spark Companies, and it's a great thing to celebrate. So Aaron, like, congrats. I know that's not who you are. You don't love that, but congrats. Well done. Continue doing it. And for each of you who are watching, if you want more information on the Amazing Shake, just Google it. It's really cool. I think as entrepreneurs, like, if you didn't in your head go, oh, we got to do this at my kid's school. Like, I'm sure yesterday you're like, I got to figure out how to pull this off at my kid's school, in the future.
That's what I'm really,
I want my kids to go through it.
Yeah.
So it's,
because you're watching.
Yeah.
It's hard not to get, well, I said what I said about how I feel about it, but then there's the side of it. It's like, man, this is so good for these kids. I want my kids to experience this.
Yeah.
So yeah, there might be a pretty healthy push for me on our kids' school.
Yeah, so, by all means. Well, thanks for watching and listening today. We hope you guys have a great day, and we look forward to you tuning in to the next episode. Thanks for watching.